Hello everybody, my name is Caretaker and I run the Discord server tutorial entity, and I'm here with a character bio or the character info for the Deathslinger. We're going to go over his backstory, his perks, his power, and his attributes, and then we're going to discuss his perks. So let's get right into it. Born in the dust-ridden badlands of the American Midwest, Caleb Quinn was son to struggling Irish immigrants on the edge of the frontier. Sickness, famine, and death were common sights, and pioneers contended for whatever scraps they could claim, while tycoons feasted. Caleb's father, once an engineer, had few options to ply his trade as businesses posted a common sign: "No Irish need apply." His antiquated tools laid untouched for years until Caleb uncovered them. Noticing his son's interest in the trade, he gifted him his old wrench. The devices Caleb made under his father's guidance had quaint applications, but when his father was away, they took a grim turn. He hid plans for a mask that would gouge barbed needles into a human's eyes and rip them from their sockets, complete with sketches of it fitted on boys who bullied him. Oops. With age, Caleb's engineering abilities became marketable, and employers put their discrimination aside. Henry Bayshore, the owner of United West Rail, hired him. Caleb first invented a gun that shot railroad spikes into the ground. Next, he made a steam-powered tunneling drill. But as Bayshore feigned indifference, the devices began turning up at other companies, the patents stolen from Caleb and sold. A familiar sensation coursed through Caleb's blood, feeding the sharp pain in his heart. Rage overwhelmed him. He burst into Bayshore's office and smashed his face into a bloody stew. As he was pulled away, he pushed his specialized gun to his boss's gut and squeezed the trigger. A railroad spike plowed through skin and viscera, nailing Bayshore to his desk. The only thing that saved Caleb from hanging was Bayshore's unlikely survival. For 15 years, Caleb was confined to Hellshire Penitentiary, the nation's first private prison. In a fortress of illiterate convicts, he found an unlikely friend in the educated prison warden. He designed torture devices for him and in return received extra meals. After a time, the warden offered to commute his sentence. He spoke of something greater than monetary wealth, political capital, and that his connections could have Bayshore framed and rotting behind bars for life. He had only one request: make him rich, fill the prison, use ingenuity to bring outlaws in alive. Caleb returned to his workshop and with a few modifications emerged with something new: the spear gun. The first trial occurred when a thief robbed the Chinese laundry. Seizing on the opportunity, Caleb unleashed his prototype. Metal joints screeched as a spike shot forward, gouging into the target's abdomen. But as the spear tugged, it caught the thief's intestines and with an ungodly sound yanked them onto the dusty road. After several iterations, the disembowelments dwindled, but Caleb had already earned his new nickname, the Deathslinger. Looking to protect his asset, the prison warden pulled strings and released Irish inmates to form Caleb's posse. The Hellshire Gang was born. For 6 years they roamed the country collecting wanted outlaws for the prison, fulfilling their end of their bargain. After a bloody battle at Glenvale, Caleb caught notice of a newspaper headline: "Henry Bayshore purchases Hellshire Penitentiary." In the picture, a disfigured Bayshore proudly shook the warden's hand. Caleb's heart pounded with rage, blood swelling as it would burst from his veins. He'd been sold out, a pawn in a rich man's game. The Hellshire Gang pledged their loyalty to Caleb and called for the warden's head. In a thundering gallop, they smashed through the prison entrance, shrieking like bloodthirsty marauders. A guard raised his pistol but hesitated. A spear punctured his chest. Caleb grabbed the man's head and slammed it against the prison cell until it spilled through the bars. Reaching the warden's office, Caleb kicked the door and was met with a fortunate sight. It wasn't only the prison warden who cowered in a corner, but Henry Bayshore. Overpowered with rage, Caleb rushed Bayshore, beating, bludgeoning, tearing at his flesh. The man's blood dripped from his face, crimson pooling at his feet. The Hellshire Gang swarmed the warden, snapping bones with each kick. With the two men broken and begging for death, the posse dragged them to the commons where they were left the growing crowd of prisoners. Soaked in blood and sweat, Caleb hobbled to his old cell, hardly paying notice to Bayshore's screams. He sat on the bed's edge as drops of blood ran from his fingertips. A thick, unnatural fog streamed through the barred window. He pulled out his old wrench, cracked and rusted, and ran a thumb along the metal, regarding it with faded eyes. He couldn't remember when it came into his possession. He didn't care to remember. At his feet he saw a dusty path, and at the end, silhouettes of all who had done him wrong. The boys who bullied him, the executives who took advantage of him, and again Henry Bayshore, emerging from a fog with the tools to dispose of them, unforgiving steel hooks, brilliant and beautiful in their simplicity. Pain tore through his leg as he stood up, but he endured, pushing onward, walking the dusty path, leaving a trail of blood flowing behind him. Now, the Deathslinger's power is the Redeemer. The Deathslinger's ingenuity affords him the ability to reel in bounties with a unique invention, a heavily modified hybrid rifle that replaces conventional ammunition with a razor-sharp spear affixed to a chain. The Redeemer. Press and hold the power button to aim down sights. Press the attack button to shoot a spear that can lodge itself in the survivor, allowing them to be reeled in towards the Deathslinger against their will. Reel. While a survivor is speared by the Redeemer, press and hold the power button to reel them in towards you. Survivors may struggle against the chain or use the environment to pressure the chain to break. Doing so will result in briefly stunning the Deathslinger, as well as putting the survivor in the injured state and applying the deep wound status effect. Using a basic attack while a survivor is speared will break the chain without applying a penalty to either the Deathslinger or the survivor. Successfully hitting a survivor with a basic attack while they are speared and healthy will also apply the deep wound status effect. Reload. The Redeemer must be reloaded after every shot before it may be fired again. Press and hold the active ability button to reload the Redeemer. The Deathslinger is a 110 killer. His terror radius is 24 meters, and he is considered tall. Now, as all killers and new characters that come out, he has 3 teachable perks. Those teachable perks are... I put it a little backwards here, sorry. We'll just go this way. Hex Retribution. A hex that lashes out upon its destruction. Those who cross you will be punished. Any survivor who cleanses a dull totem will suffer from the Oblivious status effect for 45 seconds. If any hex totem is cleansed, including this one, the auras of all survivors are revealed for 10 seconds. Now, the biggest thing that comes to mind with Hex Retribution is obviously, Hex Haunted Ground. It's probably one of the best perks to pair with this one, and pretty much is an anti-Hex for an anti-Hex perk, but they can pair well, assuming the right totem pops first. His next perk is Dead Man Switch. You become obsessed with one survivor. After hooking the obsession, Dead Man Switch activates for the next 45 seconds. While activated, any survivor that stops repairing a generator before it is fully repaired causes the entity to block the generator until Dead Man Switch effect ends. Affected generators are highlighted by a white aura. The killer can only be obsessed with one survivor at a time. I've seen the look on a man's face and realizes he's going to die. Sorry, I almost forgot to read the text. Bloody fool, you pulled the trigger on yourself. That's a retribution. Okay. Dead Man Switch is definitely going to be a perk that's going to work well with obsession swapping builds, such as Furtive or Nemesis. If you're able to consistently hook your obsession and keep them on the hook and keep rolling through and keep the pressure down, you'll have generators constantly blocked. And I know a few people were confused as to how this works. This works on all generators. It doesn't matter which one, doesn't matter if one's already blocked. Any generators that are worked on that they get off while this is active will be blocked. And there's no cooldown either. It works for 45 seconds, and that's just how it goes. There's no cooldown. It works on all generators. So this one could definitely be a really rough perk to play with. And his final perk is Gearhead. You've got an ear for well-oiled gears. After hitting a survivor 2 times with your basic attack, Gearhead activates for 45 seconds. Each time a survivor completes a good or great skill check while repairing, the generator will be revealed by a yellow aura for as long as it is being repaired. Sometimes a man's best work is what puts him in the grave, the prison warden. Now, similar to Dead Man's Switch, I also saw some confusion about this one. There is no cooldown. When you hit 2 basic attacks for 45 seconds, this is active. Any skill checks hit by any other survivor on any generator will glow yellow, and it will go back to red after that generator is left or completed. Obviously it won't go red when it's completed, but, that's just how that one works. So it gives us another tracking perk that's actually pretty decent to use. I definitely see a lot of people using this and kind of replacing some of the tracking perks that we have right now. But that is the Deathslinger's perks and info. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the fog.